Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen and Louis D'Souza here on this Monday, January the 14th, 2019. It is 8 a.m. in New York. It is 5 a.m. in Los Angeles. London, England, we're at 1 p.m. and in Sydney, Australia, around 12 midnight. But wherever you are in the world, thank you for joining us today for another episode of LOA Today, your daily dose of happy. And we are off to a happy start this week, because we have a guest who's going to be joining us for the show and sharing her unique and interesting and unusual experiences with the law of attraction. This is also, as usual, a live stream to our page on Facebook, the LOA Today page, as well as to the Law of Attraction Changed My Life group on Facebook. So if you are listening to the live stream as we record this, feel free to add your comments and questions in the comments section, and we will be glad to incorporate that into our discussion. But without further ado, first of all, Louis, how you doing? You had a good weekend, I take it?
I'm fantastic. I had, as I mentioned before, a spring cleaning weekend, which was great. It's always nice to clean out the clutter and bring in the new.
Very good. Well, I like the fact that you're doing spring cleaning in winter. Get it done ahead of time. That's what I say.
Got to get ahead of it.
Absolutely. Very good. I love that. So, okay, well, why don't you introduce our guest today, because you know her better than I do, and you can tell us all the wonderful things about Yvon.
Yeah, so I'm very happy to have Yvon on today. And Yvon came onto my... actually, where did we discover each other? We discovered each other on Insight Timer, didn't we?
Yes, I think so.
Yvon remembers
from
that.
there onto the group. Yep.
Yeah, then you came onto my WhatsApp Law of Attraction group, and then from there... I had personal one-to-one chats with you about your health and condition, which has had over, about a year or two now, quite an amazing transformation. So really excited to hear more about that. And yeah, Yvon lives in the Netherlands in a smallish town, I think. I'm going to hand it over to Yvon and be excited to hear more about it all.
Oh, okay. All right.
How were you feeling when I first met you? How was your life and condition?
Oh, well, I think by the time I met you, I was already on my, but not quite as far as I've progressed today. But to give a little background, I had a stroke when I was 24 years old. Ooh. And as a result, I had a lot less energy to spend. In fact, I think to tell my old story, the story I discontinued, but to start there to see where I've progressed to, is that I used to have about 10% of the energy that I used to have, and that was on a good day. So I would spend...
only 10.
Yeah, and that was on a good day. Usually it was a lot less than that. So, it was, I used to spend most days by myself, and even then, and with no job and no kids to take care of, and I would still need a nap to get me through the day.
Wow.
And often I would ask even my husband at night to speak more softly, and we would dim the lights, because lights and sounds and all sensory input was really a lot to take. So that was my starting off point in 2004.
Wow.
And ever since then, you do what you do. You go to rehabilitation program in the hospital, and you try different things, and you read books. And I've always believed that there was a potential for me to be better, but there was also these walls that you tend up running into. Walls that I now know were my beliefs about it, and the story that I kept telling in my head about it.
Yvon, briefly, what label did the doctors give you?
A stroke, and as a result, it was a chronic fatigue syndrome.
Okay.
And it was expected. The doctors expected for me to stay at that same level that I was 10 plus years ago.
Really?
For the rest of your life?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, it was pretty much permanent. Yeah. So, well, what do they know, right?
Yeah, what do they know?
Well, they know a lot, just not
all we
all the
know
stuff
about
they
what
need.
they say is we want to prove them wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, I don't want to prove them wrong.
Yeah,
I just want to prove that they have more to learn. That's all.
Yeah, well, true. And and I'm showing myself most of all, which is the best part. So and these days it's completely different. For instance, I used to, as I said, spend most days by myself and need a nap to get me through the day. And last summer, I spent 2 weeks on a holiday in California driving around an RV with my husband and 2 other friends. So there were 4 of us all the time, and we would drive for 3 hours, and then I would hike for an hour, and I didn't need a nap, and I'd still feel okay. So that's just an indication of the transformation that I went through.
Very good.
Huge transformation. Huge.
Yeah. So what's the secret to coin a phrase?
Well, if you've watched The Secret, then you know the answer. But it's thinking differently. That's basically, in a nutshell, what I did. It's just it's really interesting and fascinating to me because the stroke may have affected my brain, but it also helped me to understand the power of my mind. So, and using the power of my mind to change my thoughts and to change my focus, most of all, is what caused me to feel better and better and better and better. It's all about the story you tell yourself.
That story makes a huge, huge difference. It's true, and it's
It
one
makes
of those
a
things.
huge,
I mean,
huge
we who are
difference.
deliberate creators have a better appreciation of that, I assume, than most people do. But even when you're first starting off, when you've first been exposed to The Secret, like I was, I'm not sure if that was Louis' first one, but when you're first exposed to it, you can tell that there's something going on there. But until you experience it, until you experience some shift going on, it's almost unbelievable. It's almost impossible to believe. And yet you experienced it on something that, I mean, most of us start off with things like, I tried to remove a cyst from my finger and, parking spaces and things like this. This is, relatively low level stuff. You went for, well, I want to feel better after a stroke. Good for you. Good on you for doing that.
Yeah, well, you could say I was uniquely motivated.
Yes. Very true. Yeah, and understandable.
Briefly, I don't see the live
really
feed on the Law of Attraction group.
The Law of Attraction group isn't picking up the feed? Oh, dear. Let's see if we can find out why. I will continue to play with that and see what's going on. I'll try to share one more time.
We'll let Yvonne continue in the meantime.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there, but we'll figure that out.
So, Yvonne, one thing I noticed you said to me was that you kind of specifically didn't change your diet much, or didn't change this much, or didn't change that much. You really wanted to do it mentally.
Yeah.
You wanted to do it with your thoughts.
Yes. And I'm
that's
a
incredible.
little stubborn. I'm stubborn that way. I'm stubborn that way. Yeah, but it's also because I couldn't really get myself to believe that just simply, no longer eating carbs or something would cause the turnaround. I never really felt, I never felt a strong pull in that direction. And if you do, and you do go that route, and it can really yield you great benefit. I'm not saying that it's not. It definitely has its uses. But
the way it's healing you is because your belief in it. Your belief in it is your thoughts.
Exactly, and I think I've always had a kind of understanding about that. A kind of understanding that if I do change my diet, it will only work because I believe it works. And if I can believe a diet works, I can believe something else works too. Which doesn't mean that I only eat junk food. It just means that I do what I can to feel as good as I can feel emotionally, because I trust that feeling good emotionally is what creates the environment for the body to thrive physically. And that's really everything you need. I mean, if you get to the point where you understand that you have the power of focus and you can focus in this moment on what feels a little better or it feels a little worse, then you got everything, because you're no longer powerless by any condition. And even if you don't yet believe that healing is possible for you, you may not be able to jump that far because of maybe you have a diagnosis that you believe in at this point. You can still believe that you can feel a little better emotionally. And if you can do that and get there by the power of your focus, then you can feel a little better and you can start telling yourself the story that, well, okay, now I'm feeling better emotionally. So now my body, my cells are able to function better as well. And let me just be surprised by what happens next. And if you start there, I think it won't be long before you see the evidence of that.
When you're in the middle of something like a serious medical condition like this, it can be rather difficult. I mean, particularly if there's pain involved. And I don't get the impression that you had a chronic pain, but you had chronic fatigue, which is just about as debilitating. Yes. When you're dealing with something chronic like that can kind of be rather, my favorite word is daunting, to overcome and say, you know what, I'm not going to focus on that. So I got to ask you, what's your trick? Yeah. What's your particular approach for not focusing on that and focusing on what you want instead?
Well, there's several things, and I do experience, because as a result of the fatigue, I do experience discomfort. I usually don't use the word pain because I think discomfort feels softer to me.
Sure.
There are more pain involved, but I try to, as much as I can, just to play it down, and that's one of the things that I do. I try to play down what I don't like so much and play up what I like a lot. Mm-hmm. So it's like one of my favorite my favorite things to say on a moment when because I do still have moments where, maybe I've been more active and my body needs to adjust from that and rest from that. Sometimes the discomfort can get intense, and because I'm noticing it, I'm unconsciously, or at least sometimes I do notice, I resist bit and you push against it, and the pain or discomfort instantly gets worse. And what I try to do is to say to myself, you know what, I look forward to feeling better because I know I will. Things like that.
Yeah.
And because I know there's always going to be that up and down. There's always going to be better days, there's going to be lower days, and on a lower day, you just have to ride it out sometimes. And you just have to say, you know what, this is a lower day, that's okay. Doesn't mean anything for where I'm not yet still able to go. It doesn't mean that it's a setback. It just means a pause. And it just means that right now what I need is rest, and what I need is to let myself off the hook and just, and sometimes just say to myself, you know what, the best thing for me to do right now is to just lie on the couch, watch TV, and watch something funny, because in laughing I'm releasing resistance. And that'll make me feel better. And does that always work? No, because I'm human, and sometimes I do get stuck in the resistance, and sometimes you have a bad moment or a little bit of a meltdown, and that's okay too. And the more you can let it be okay, the more quickly you move past that. So I think that even with pain, you can still decide that, okay, but you can either, and I think this is something that Abraham Hicks directly said, you can be in pain and you can be frustrated, or you can be in pain and be hopeful. Right. And that is your choice, always.
Good point, yeah.
So,
yeah.
And sometimes, because, I would highly recommend anyone listening to leave the action journey out of it for the most part, and just focus on feeling better in your thoughts first. But at the same time, I also know that for myself, sometimes I do need to do something small or something, because it takes my mind off of whatever discomfort I'm feeling. Because sometimes in rest, or when I'm lying on the couch, because I'm inactive, more of my focus or more of my attention is automatically going to what my senses are picking up. And my senses are picking up all kinds of discomfort, which is mixing my vibration, obviously. You can't really get around that. So sometimes I will try to just do some small, simple activity, because in focusing on that, there's a distraction that happens that makes me put less of my attention on the discomfort.
One of the things that one of my other co-hosts recommended to me one time when I was dealing with my own resistances was to have a go-to list on the wall or on the desk or something like that I could go to if I just needed something to reach out to. I was having trouble. I was in, not not good feeling. I didn't feel good. I didn't feel confident. I didn't feel any of that stuff. I had to have that. If I had that go-to list, I could go to it and see, okay, what are the things that I've done in the past that have worked well? Do any of them look appealing to me? And I'm wondering, do you ever switch and swap between things to do? I mean, you mentioned watching funny television, which is a great thing to do, but...
Absolutely, yeah. Watching television is a great one, and I have tried lists like that, but I have also found that lists don't always work because there's really, and I think that the toughest thing for me to get my head around is that you can't really have a predictable prescription of something that will always work. And trying to get to that place where I can always have a kind of go-to move that will automatically fix whatever discomfort I'm in or fix whatever something I'm frustrated with is not going to work. Mm-hmm. I think because there's so many variations and so many things that interact on one another and so many things determining your mood and also sometimes it's determined by the momentum that your bad mood is in.
Oh, yeah.
Because sometimes if you catch it in the early stages, you can shift to do something, and I can just say, you know what, I'm just gonna go on a very gentle walk with my dog, because when I'm outside, I can just focus on appreciating the wind on my face, and I can appreciate the sunshine, or I look at the birds, and that is often a good distraction. But once frustration or discomfort really gets underway, it's a little more difficult because I'll experience the discomfort while walking. So, because it's progressed to that point. Momentum, so then you really do need to, and for me, sometimes the best solution was to just give up trying to feel better, and then I felt better.
Yes, right. That makes total sense. I mean, just sometimes...
Because sometimes you're trying too hard.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I get into a day and I just feel pissy, and that's all there is to it, and all the momentum shifting is going to do nothing until I address that feeling.
Just enjoy the feeling pissy.
And there is relief in that, isn't there?
There is.
Yeah.
There's just relief in letting yourself, feel whatever it is you're feeling, because sometimes, and particularly because I've gotten quite good at, or quite skilled and practiced at shifting my vibration and my emotion, that sometimes I'll demand it of myself to do it all the time. And so when I can't, I get a little frustrated with myself and it pisses me off that I can't do it. But, the second I let that be okay, like, okay, you know what, usually I can, today I can't, let that be what it be's. And there is such relief in that, and just cutting yourself some slack.
Yeah. And
I think that's one of the things that I would really recommend anyone listening to be. If you're starting out on a healing journey, then please just try to be gentle with yourself as you can, because really we're all doing the best we can here, and
absolutely.
That's all we can expect, really.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's true. By the way, this is a Q&A, so if anyone is listening to the live stream, obviously if you're listening to the recording, it's kind of hard to send the question in, but if you're listening to the live stream and you have a question or something you'd like Yvon or any of us to address, feel free to type it in. We'll be able to bring it in right away and be happy to address it. But in the meantime, we'll just get to know Yvon, because, I mean, your story is fascinating for a couple of reasons. One reason is my wife's mother went through 2 strokes. Actually, she's come to the second stroke. And the stories that my wife told, my wife was in her late teens, early 20s when all this happened. And it was debilitating for her mom, but it was also debilitating for my wife, because my wife ended up being her caregiver as a teenager, which is not exactly the most ideal thing for a teenager to do. But she did. And she got to witness firsthand what happens when somebody does suffer a first stroke. I mean, she basically had to provide 24-hour care for her, which was crazy, but nevertheless, that's what she had to do. So I see you sitting there on your end of the connection here. You're obviously in very good condition. You're able to speak clearly. You're able to function well. That's quite a distance away from where her mom was after one stroke. Right. So I have to give you congratulations for that. And I think it also is testimony to what you've been doing. You've been doing the right kind of stuff to get yourself there. That's really good.
True. I did, I was fortunate to come out of the stroke fairly well. I mean, I was able to walk and talk even right after the stroke.
Oh, that's good.
So, and that was very fortunate. And I think something that also helped was that at the time, the doctors in my bed, because I was so young, they expected me to make a full recovery, which end up not quite happening at the time. I'll prove them right in the end, but it helped me to take my time and adjust my expectation from there. I went out thinking, I'll just go back to work, because I had before that happened, it was 8 months after graduation. I had just gotten my bachelor's degree, and 8 months later I had a stroke. And I tried to go back to work about 2 or 3 months later, but it was so challenging and so intense to do that it just I got to the point where after trying lots of different things, I said, well, if I have to do it like this, I don't want to anymore. And that's an easier way to give up the whole job thing when you think, well, if it's going to be that hard from where I am now, that's not what I want to do. Mm-hmm. So from there, I had the luxury, because let's face it, that is also a luxury, to just be home and focus on my well-being first.
Yeah, that's good. That's very important. Chronic fatigue syndrome is also a part of what you're going through, not necessarily what everybody goes through when they go through a stroke. And I'm curious about two things. First, how quickly did you have an onset of that after the stroke? And secondly, how did that impact your ability to shift your mind and shift your mood and take control of how you thought? And when did you start doing that part?
Well, the chronic fatigue was there straight away, much more intense because there's this is a very common thing after a stroke. I think I read somewhere that about 80% of people who've had a stroke deal with this chronic fatigue after a stroke.
Wow.
And so that's a lot. And for me, it was most intense in the first couple of months after, and I would sleep 10 or 11 hours or sometimes 12 hours a night, and I would still take a 2-hour nap in the afternoon. I slept a lot in those first few months. And the shifting of my mind, I think that happened gradually. And I don't really, because it's been a while now, but I don't really recall all the things that I tried in the meantime. But I remember, voraciously reading all kinds of books and going on a kind of a self-help rampage, which is sometimes helpful, sometimes not so. You can overdose on that stuff.
You can, it's true.
And actually, because you can start to feel like you're really trying to fix something, and as we know, that never works. And when you're trying to fix something in your body, you're also sometimes you're trying to fix yourself as well. So that doesn't really help with confidence.
Well,
one of the challenges I found with self-help material was that there's so much out there, and you kind of get swamped with, this is a good book, this is a good book, this is a good idea, this is a good idea, but you're not putting it in action, so you're not getting what you want, and it's not manifesting. So you kind of get swamped. And that's one of the reasons why I really like the Abraham Hicks teachings, because they've made it so incredibly simple.
It's simple.
The simplicity
I call that,
is huge.
I call that inspiration overload. Where you just, because there are so many good stuff out there, and I did always do my best to also apply it. But then, you have this person saying this thing, and you have the next book saying that thing.
Yeah.
And if you want, and if you look into it, you can find contradictory statements on everything.
Oh yeah.
So I think if you would want to look for it, I think there's people saying that even oranges aren't healthy for you if you really try. So
I love it.
And then I actually heard Abram the other day say that the citrus are unappreciated on this planet, which is a rare comment from them to actually suggest.
This is true. Yeah, they don't usually.
Yes.
They don't usually do that.
Because they're usually very neutral about the whole food thing.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's
But you're actually
about
answering.
how you feel when you eat it.
You're actually answering one of the questions here on the group.
Well, yeah, Nasha asked a question, nice general question, and you've been addressing it in general, but she wants a more specific address. Can you please share some tips on how to shift the focus after feeling any negative feeling?
Well, I think the first step always is to make peace with where you are. And that is not always an easy thing. And it doesn't mean make peace with where you are permanently. You don't have to accept the permanency of any emotional state. But if you can accept that, okay, right now I'm frustrated, that's okay, or okay, I'm a little discouraged, or if you can let that be okay, and knowing and reminding yourself that you can get to where you want to be from right where you are, then it makes it easier to be at peace with where you are. So, for instance, if you think of a map and you consider where you are right now with your GPS, you can get to anywhere on the planet right from where you are. Some journeys take a little longer than others, but you can pick any point on the planet anywhere and you can get there. So if you can accept that right now, even though you're not feeling well, you can trust that there is a moment in the future, maybe even sometime soon, where you can feel a little bit better than how you feel right now, then it helps you relax about where you are right now, because it's not a wrong place.
The tricky thing for a lot of people to really put their head around is that they created every situation, every bit of illness, sickness, etc. was created through thoughts of what they didn't want. And the higher self is doing that on purpose to help you. And, understanding that everything is perfect where it's at is really challenging for a lot of people to really say, but I didn't order that, I didn't ask for that, I didn't want that. And
you don't have to call it perfect. You don't even have to get there. You just have to you have to just say, okay, today I'm feeling this, I'm feeling discomfort here, I feel frustrated and this. That's okay. You don't have to analyze how you got there. You don't have to figure out how you're going to get away from there. You can just focus on, okay, this is where I am. This is my starting point. And from here on out, I have a choice to focus on something that makes me feel a little bit better. Because if you focus on the fact that you have a choice, then you no longer feel powerless. And I think that's the hardest, that has been one of the hardest things for me, that I felt so at the mercy of my circumstances that I've spent quite a bit of time railing against that, because it goes so counter to our very drive and our very nature that, and because it is counter to our very nature. We are not powerless, regardless of what surrounds you. You always have a choice. And as to how we are creating our own condition, I believe that's true. I agree with you, but I don't think we really have to go into analyzing how we got there or how it got created that way, or did I do something wrong to create this, and was it intended for me to get this? I think if you can let that be what it is and just accept that however it was created, this is where I am, and I have a choice right now. That, for me, has always been the most empowering thing.
That's a really good point you made there, by the way. The idea that if you focus on the fact that you have a choice, it's empowering. Because I think what we often tend to do is to say, I have a choice, and then immediately go to, okay, how am I going to get to the choice I want to make? Instead of focusing on, I have a choice. You know what? I have a choice.
Yes.
This is actually very empowering for me to know I can choose. I can choose which way I'm going to go there. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
That doesn't get enough attention.
You can even choose, even when you find yourself struggling against a mood of frustration, or you're feeling, or even when you're feeling in despair because you can't really see the solution. If you can say, well, I choose to let myself off the hook right now. I choose to just ride it out and not make myself feel worse by making myself feel wrong or trying to make myself turn this all around right here and now. If I can just be gentle to myself and choose that, then you're already finding a little bit more empowerment in a situation that looked quite bleak.
That's good. That's a very good approach. I like that. Now,
Interestingly enough, Yvonne, Jessica has managed to go on, and she's on live. I'm just letting you know. So, hi, Jessica.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Thank you.
thanks for joining us, Jessica. We're glad to have you here. And Suraj, who's one of our regulars, has a question that's not necessarily directly related to what you're talking about. It may be related, though, in a way that I haven't quite discerned yet. And this may be law of attraction delivering a message that I haven't heard the message yet. But Suraj is asking, without knowing the full story of our life, some people give predictions about us in a negative way. How do you deal with these toxic people?
Well, I think nobody has any power over you that you aren't giving them. If you are saying to yourself, you know what, I know what I know, and I can tell by how I feel what resonates with me and what doesn't, then why would it matter what this person thinks?
Good point.
That's not always an easy place to get your head around, particularly if it's someone you're really close to or someone you really care about. But no one can, as Abraham says, no one can vibrate for you, no one can think for you, and it's only you thinking about their thoughts that it messes up your own situation.
I think what I didn't get a long time ago, Yvonne and Walt and Suraj, is that I wouldn't have negative people in my life unless I was a vibrational match. It's impossible. My person in my life, my family, or somebody, a member of my family or anything, family is often the more difficult one to deal with. They wouldn't come to you when they're negative if you were in a clear, positive place. If you weren't in some level expecting this to happen. If you weren't opening yourself with your thoughts of vulnerability. So it's really important to understand the only way you can protect yourself is to keep yourself on a higher flying disc more of the time. And that is the way to completely, totally protect yourself, even if somebody's negative right next to you and they live with you. And they will not be able to come to you and affect you. It's impossible if you remain on that high flying discs. They will either get bounced out, or they'll come to you when they're on a higher flying disc themselves.
It's a funny thing how if you're
what also helps, I think, is sorry.
No, go ahead, Yvonne. Go ahead. I talk all the time, so it's no problem.
I was just thinking that something that helps is that if you consider them toxic people, you're making the toxicity part very big in your experience. Yeah. But there's always more to that person than just that negative comment. Mm-hmm. So if you can find anything that you do appreciate about them, and you focus on that in your own mind, then you'll find that they behave differently toward you.
That's the perfect point. As soon as you say somebody's toxic, you've already opened yourself up to be affected by them.
That's true.
Yeah, and it doesn't give them enough credit, I think, because I don't think that any single person is just toxic. There's always the wanted end of the stick in anyone.
Very good point.
It's like a friend at work who kept on saying to me, I hate my boss, I hate my boss, I hate my boss. I said, find something you like about them, even if it's their tie or their shoe or something, just find something about them that you like. And they started focusing on that. And they said the boss is a completely different person to them. They just couldn't believe it. It was completely changed, different person. So, and it had nothing to do with the boss. It had to do with their active vibration.
I was going to add that there's an interesting little experiment that you can do. If you're dealing with somebody who is toxic in some way, who has a negative effect on you, and you're tying into it, get yourself into the fine place while you're next to them, and then watch how they behave. Because the funny thing is, you described how the two just don't work. You can't really connect on that level, and you really do actually experience that, because when you get yourself into a better feeling place and they don't, all of a sudden everything they try doesn't work. It just like falls flat on the ground, and they don't understand what happened. Sometimes they'll try to fight even harder, but sometimes you get this perplexed look on their faces, like, "What just happened? What just happened?"
No idea.
It's a funny thing, and I actually use that as a way to get energy. Like, I'd get myself feeling better, and then watch their reaction. I go.
Niggering Walt, eh?
Oh yes, I try not to snigger in their faces, but yes, it's fun. It's fun to see how. I love it whenever somebody is trying to bring me down in some way, and I manage to not let them. I manage to get myself into a better feeling place, and then just watch the attack fall apart. And sometimes you can even get lucky in the sense that they'll fall apart so much that they're receptive to something positive, which is really fun. Because then you throw that positive comment in, and you can actually see their faces change. I love that. I really love it when I see somebody who's in a resistant anger pose, and a moment later, their whole countenance has changed. I love that.
Mm-hmm. I like the way you just did that too. I could feel it.
Oh, let's see. Oh, we've got an extensive comment from Nasha here. Nasha was saying she's been sick, and we're so glad that you're feeling better, Nasha, and glad that you can join us again, because Nasha is literally one of my best fans, I have to say. She's constantly singing my praises, so I love having her around. But she says, Yvon, you are truly inspirational. After hearing the journey, I can't believe someone can be so brave and positive. I fall short of words. I was just thinking, why was I ill again and in and out of the hospital? This is not what I planned for the New Year's.
You know what my take on that is, Walt?
You can make a new plan from right where you are.
You can.
You have a new day tomorrow.
You can make a new plan from where you are. That's powerful.
Yeah, every day is a new day, and sometimes even every moment is a new moment. Sometimes I would, get off of my high flying disc earlier in the day. You have to just, start again tomorrow. And I'm thinking, I don't want to wait until tomorrow. I just want to feel better now. But it just takes a little bit of practice, and it just takes a little focus. And I remember. And it's a nice example of one such moment that I was feeling ornery, and I was feeling upset, and I was a little frustrated with myself that I wasn't finding the shift that I usually do. And I go to the bathroom, and I find something to appreciate, and I'm going to try and focus on that for just a little bit. And I focused on the toilet paper, because we have this brilliant 1-ply per use toilet paper that is just really thick and very comfortable and very efficient, and it's a recyclable paper. And I just found myself, having this very short rampage about toilet paper.
I love it.
And then I smiled at myself, because just the silliness of focusing on toilet paper and noticing that I was feeling better. And I was thinking, and that turned it around, because as toilet paper and feel a little bit better, then I don't really. So
I can just see Nasha running to the toilet.
No.
And keep drinking lots of water as Abraham runs, then you'll spend plenty of time in the toilet. So there's that.
Absolutely true. Yeah.
Drinking
you know what
as
I would
much
say
water
to
as you can hold is also a very good thing.
Go ahead,
Well,
Louis.
do you know what I would say to anybody who's talking about being sick and sickness?
Yes.
Louis would say, "I love it. I love being sick."
Well, we always knew you had a screw loose, so it's okay.
Yeah, exactly. No, but I think that's exactly why affirmations do.
People don't appreciate.
That points to why. Sorry. No, I'm just saying that I think that if you try and say, I love being sick, or if you're trying and saying, I am in vibrant good health, as affirmations suggest, then I think you're trying to make too big a jump. And you can't get there, because you can say I'm in vibrant good health until you're blue in the face, but if you're at that time feeling, yeah, but I'm really not, or I used to I've tried that too. I've tried a whole bunch of things, and I would affirm, I have all the energy I need, but I was thinking, yeah, right, I have all the energy I need. No, I don't. And if that's what your
Exactly.
vibration is, then the affirmations won't work. So that's why I suggest keep it much simpler. Find anything that you can think about that makes you feel a little bit better than where you are. And, like I do on a bad day where I say to myself, well, I look forward to feeling a little bit better because I know I will, then you don't really need that much else.
Yvonne, you know how that manifested for me, that too positiveness which you want to shoot somebody? It started when I was at school, and I've mentioned this once before, and there was this girl who won the debate, and the debate was about positive speaking and positive thinking, and she did the debate again live for us in assembly, and I felt sick. I felt I wanted to puke, and I was like, she's talking about positivity, which we know is good and right and correct. And of course, this is when I was 13 years old, but I felt very negative about it. And I realized only when I started understanding the Abraham Hicks teachings is that when you are focusedly negative, you're nowhere near the vicinity of being focusedly positive, and it can feel really sickening to you. So we need to understand how to go generally negative and then generally positive and then focusedly positive. We need to go up the emotional scale. And the emotional scale is one of the best things that I've ever learned in being able to help me move up on any subject or any sickness or any ailment or any depression or any is just to go to the next one up the scale, and don't try to jump too far, go from depression to revenge to rage to anger to frustration to I don't care to hope to expectation. So, going up that scale slowly and surely is, and even going from something like depression to revenge is a big jump. Really is a big jump. It's not a small one. So, don't disrespect revenge because it's still a negative emotion.
True. Yeah.
There's another thing too that occurs to
There have
me.
been moments.
I was just going to say there's something else that occurred to me too, and that is not only is understanding and knowledge of the emotional scale useful for us, it's also useful in terms of understanding other people. Because the point you made, Louis, to take that off was really, really valid. When one person is in a low vibration and they're dealing with somebody in a high vibration, and I'll even take it a step further. The person in a high vibration goes to a higher place, or the person in a low vibration goes to a lower place, so the discrepancy becomes bigger. The almost universal reaction is for the person in the lower place to feel worse. And when they feel worse, they usually express the fact that they're feeling worse. So, I mean, we can all remember some time in our lives when we dealt with somebody who was just, they were not in a good place, and they were really being rough to deal with, and maybe they were attacking us or something like that. And then we get into a better place, and they attack us even harder. It's because they feel the difference, and they don't like it. They don't like the way that feels. And when you understand it that way, now you know it's not that they hate you. It's just they can't handle the difference in the vibration level. And that's all it is.
It can be quite annoying to have somebody really positive next to you and you're not feeling that good. It can, yeah.
Yeah, but
And
I think it's when I'm with someone who is, in not feeling too great, the mistake that I made in the past was to, try and be positive toward them. But then I thought, that's not a kind thing, because I'm not helping them make peace with where they are. And if I can make peace with where they are, and I just help them, use my words to just help them make peace with where they are, then I'm being a much stronger influence on them feeling better than to try and make them feel better.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. Yeah.
Because that's usually counterproductive.
Yeah, there's usually two different things that we try as human beings. We either try to help them feel better without having had any permission from them to feel better, to help them feel better, or we try to argue them out of it. You say, well, you shouldn't be doing that.
Yes.
And both of them are counterproductive, which is really interesting.
And not,
you're really fine. You're really
not
fine.
Very kind.
You're really fine. Yeah, right.
And it's not very kind, I think, either.
I agree. Yeah. We can always learn to be kinder. And sometimes kindness involves recognizing, boy, you're really pissed off, aren't you?
Yeah.
It's that simple.
And that's okay.
Yeah. So let's see.
I must admit, since learning the law of attraction, I've definitely been able to help a lot more people effectively and non-evasively than I ever have before.
Isn't that a good feeling?
Yeah, it's
I love that. By the way, Nasha did confirm that she did go off to look for the toilet paper. So.
And now she's feeling better.
And
there
she's
you
feeling
go.
better. There it is. Oh, that was great.
That's all you need. All you need is toilet paper.
I sense a comedian's routine about how wonderful toilet paper is, but we won't go there. We've done enough.
Would be a very healing thing.
Yes, that's right. Oh, that's funny. So let's see. Well, we don't have any other new questions in the comments section, so I'm going to ask one of my own. What's in your future? What are you? What's your big dream, or what are you aiming at, or what are you hoping for next in your life?
That's a big one. Well, to continue to feel better, because I think that one of the things that I'd been wanting to mention here was that how important it is to keep telling a better feeling story to yourself. Focus on the best, focus on whatever makes you feel a little better in the moment, yes, but also to tell yourself a story about how you're feeling better and better. Mm-hmm. If you're meeting a friend and I could explain to you, well, I have my good days and I have my bad days, and I usually when I do this, I need 3 days to recover, and because that is what used to be true, and I used when I spoke to people, that.
Yeah, I remember having conversations with you which you needed to keep short.
Yeah, absolutely, because I literally have trouble speaking at the end.
Wow.
And so that's the story, I would say. We can hang out Saturday night, but I'm gonna go upstairs and take breaks, and I might call it early. You're free to sit here in our living room for as long as you want, but I'm gonna go and probably ways to recharge from this, which would be true. But then I think if you still tell that story often enough, then that will continue to be true, because you observe it. But then if you keep that story alive and you keep telling that story, then you'll continue to observe it. So it's at one point it becomes it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So you need to gradually change the story you tell yourself. So now when I'm talking to other people and they ask me how I'm doing, I'm not going to lie, because that's, and I'm also not going to just tell only a rosy story, but I just play down everything that isn't quite the way I want, and I play up everything that's going great. So I'll just say I'm keeping better and better, and I do have some lower days at times. And I find that is true, and I can say that confidently. And the more I say it, the more I believe it, and the more I continue to see that is true for me. So where I see myself going is to feel better and better. And I'm writing a blog at the moment, which anyone interested can find me at Embracing My, and it's where I hope to continue to share what I'm coming to know, and also the things that I'm still struggling against, because I love not to talk about what I don't want, but to continue to rest easy in the fact that we're all human, and it's okay, and mastery is never required. So I just love echoing that, and so that's what I love doing. And I'm also I paint, and I like calling myself an artist, even though I've never really sold anything yet. But that is about to change, and I have made custom paintings for people in my lives, and I hope to continue to do that. And I make mixed media collages where I use a lot of personal ephemera and paraphernalia to make a highly personalized painting, and I love doing that, and I'm looking forward to feeling well enough to be able to paint more and write more and welcoming a second puppy soon, so I'm excited about that.
That was a nice manifestation you mentioned to me earlier. How did that manifest?
Yes, it was. It was.
You mentioned also that the difficulty early on. You talked about the difficulty of dealing with medical diagnoses. When you're faced with you're interacting with a doctor or a nurse or some other medical person, and they are giving you the usual medical line on whatever it is that they're talking about, and that medical line usually has a negative component to it. We human beings are very conditioned to buy into what credentialed people say. And nurses and doctors and all that kind of thing are very, very credentialed people. So we have this aura around them that causes us to want to pay attention, listen to what they say, believe what they say, take it verbatim, and so forth. And yet, as a deliberate creator, there are certain things you have to filter out. So did you have a strategy as you were dealing with people at that time? And I'm not even sure if you had a deliberate strategy, because I get the impression you found law of attraction after you had your stroke. So, I mean, how do you handle that? How do you handle that situation?
Well, I currently really don't face that, because I haven't been inside of a hospital, and so I don't really. That's not really an issue.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and I think that for anyone who does face that, I would just recommend that you will always listen, and there will always be a part of you that is inclined to give a lot of credence to what they're saying because they've studied for it, etc. But you just always keep in mind that while doctors know a lot, and they might know something about your situation, that you are now and will always be the expert on your situation. You yourself are the expert on your situation, so you can always evaluate what a doctor says to you and see how it feels and if it resonates with you or not. And sometimes it will, 85% of it will resonate with you, and you're inclined to believe, well, if he's right that much, then he's probably right about all of it. Well, maybe not. And you just keep giving yourself, at least give yourself the window that they might be wrong about some of it, because there might just be a potential that they're not even seeing. Mm-hmm. Because while you can give credit to a doctor and you can appreciate their expertise, you don't have to accept that they know everything, because they don't.
Well, you are the creator of your reality, so your thoughts about how you want to move forward is really the only thing that can help you. You can use the doctors, you can use the medicine, but ultimately it's your focus, your clarity of where you want to go that creates your future. And it's really a tricky one for a lot of people to first understand and then start mastering. But once you do, you stop fearing anybody and anything and any diagnosis or any doctor or any medical or any sickness or anything, and you start focusing on being clear about what you want. That's it.
Yes, and I think it's also, you remind yourself that even doctors change their minds about things all the time, and doctors are finding
about that.
Oh yes.
There's new evidence and new research being done, and new treatments being, as we speak, for countless of issues. Right. And even the medical community, I think, is coming around to the fact that there is something to that whole thought situation. So that maybe how you think is an influence. I think that the medical community will begin to come around to that as well. So just leave yourself the window that maybe the doctor is right, or maybe this is permanent, but maybe not, and maybe some of it will stay with me. But even if just the idea of improvement, feeling slightly better than how I feel now, if that is possible, then can that be enough for me right now? If just a slight improvement in the future, and that's not a big stretch.
No, not at all. And the nice thing is, if it's not a big enough stretch, you can go bigger. But if you start with that, you've at least made an improvement. You've taken a step.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think starting small is a really big thing. And I think that the same goes for the action journey, because if you're physically not able to do much and you're very frustrated about that and you're feeling limited about that, then you can take a ridiculously small step and still acknowledge yourself for taking the small step. I've been reading up about the art of Kaizen. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
No.
It's a Japanese concept that was actually sparked not in Japan but in the American factory of Toyota.
Oh.
And the idea of it is that the smallest change can actually slowly gather the biggest momentum and make the biggest impact. Because if you can start really small, then there was an example in the book about a woman who was struggling with her health. She was a diabetic and she was overweight and feel better, but she had a full-time job and 3 kids that she needed to take care of, and she just didn't have time. And the smallest step that she could consider in combining with working with a Kaizen coach. And he said, well, can you stand on your treadmill for 30 seconds?
Mm.
Just stand on it. You don't even have to move. You just stand on it for 30 seconds. Begin to come up with an argument that holds up to that. Because of course you can stand on the thing for 30 seconds. And that's why it works. It tricks your brain into allowing that step, because it's so small that you can't really come up with a valid argument not to.
That's a good
And then
point.
she found herself standing for 30 seconds, and then she found herself walking for 30 seconds, and then she thought, well, I do this commercial break, I might as well walk for the entire commercial break. And before she knew it, she was power walking even when the commercial break was over, because she really hadn't noticed. And so the small steps build. So I think that now your physical condition is, and how challenged you are right now in terms of what you can and cannot do, if you can think of one very small thing that you can do that would be a little bit more than what you're doing right now, then you can have the relief of moving forward, which is a great thing, because it keeps you from, and you can then begin to build on that and take it slow until it gathers momentum, until you can do something a little more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Abram always talks about the law of attraction being a momentum thing. So if you think about what you want and you keep on thinking about it, the law of attraction of its own power is going to help you get it. So you've got to build up momentum. You've got to have some stamina to actually focus on what you want. We're so used to looking where we are, and I love the analogy of that, which is like the rear view, what do they call it? The piece of glass in front of your car if you're driving. What do you call it?
The windscreen or the windshield?
Windscreen, the windshield. So if you had a windshield in the bottom of your car and you just looked at the road all the time, you wouldn't be really very happy. It'd be rather boring. But that's what we do in our lives. We look where we are.
All that motion.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what it does. It makes us sick, because we're looking where we're at all the time and not where we want to go. We really want to look out the window and see where we're going. We don't want to look down and see where we're at. Don't face reality. Focus on where you want to go.
Good point. Hey, before we run out of time here, Yvon, we've had a couple of issues with your signal coming through. So a couple of things you said kind of got blotted out, including when you named your blog, when you identified where people can find your blog. So I was hoping you could do it again, and hopefully this time it comes through okay.
Okay. You can find me at embracingmywings.com.
Embracingmywings.com. I'll make sure I'll put that into the description when we post the podcast as well. But want to thank you very much for having come on and shared your wonderful story and the insights that you have about how to work your way out of stuff like that. The emphasis that you placed on taking baby steps, I think, is excellent, because so often we try to bite off more than we can chew. So thank you for sharing that message. We appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome, and thanks for having me. I had a great time being here.
Excellent. All right.
Well, thanks, Yvonne. We've loved having you. It's been brilliant. Thank you.
And Louis,
thank you.
Louis, we'll see you again next week. I don't know who you're going to bring on, but I'm sure that next time you bring somebody on, it's going to be equally fantastic, because all your guests are equally fantastic. So we'll see you again next week.
No worries. I look forward to whatever happens next week.
Absolutely. And we hope that all of you will join us next time as well. You're on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Cheers, everybody. Carpe diem.